So we are in the last hour of the Power Zone. My time is 4 minutes after 2 o'clock. I told you guys that I have two guests that will be joining me for this session. We have a rape dialogue. This just happening between now and 2:30. Tumi Kutumela is my guest. When we come back, Tumi is not alone. Tumi is joined by Clement, Chauke. They're of course coming through as people that are working within spaces of activism, and they'll just let us in on this rape education program and what we can expect around dialogues centered on issues of rape. Do stay tuned.
This is Power 98.7, and now you're listening to Power Zone 12 to 3 a.m. Taking your calls on 0861 987 000.
We're in the last hour of the Power Zone right here on Power 98.7 at 2 o'clock to 2:30. I told you that I'll be joined by two guests, Tumi Kutumela, who's a transformation catalyst, and Clement Chauke, who's the president of African Leadership Movement, also a transformation speaker as well, and a social activist. So my guests are coming through in this space just to speak to us around the issue of rape education. There was a dialogue that was held around this just termed the rape education program, where we saw various speakers just come together under the Clement TC Chauke just a cohort information just to ensure that we speak up as communities around the issues of rape. So we know very well that rape in our country right now is considered just one of those scourges that are unabated, linked to issues of gender-based violence. Just those are being described as a pandemic in the country right now, to a point whereby South Africa has been described as the capital of rape in the world. So this is concerning, but what's encouraging is to see young people come together to talk, have these discussions around the rape culture, and we always encourage dialogue because we never know what people are going through. We need to sometimes understand the etymologies of where certain issues may emanate from, issues of trauma and the likes, some of these issues and the impact of just being a victim of a rape yourself, which you now have to navigate in your adult life, because we're hearing that that's a scar that stays with you forever. But my guests are here and they'll let us in on that program that took place on the 28th of January, just centered around a rape education. Let's start with Clement. Clement, welcome to the Power Zone.
Thank you for having me this morning, Katlego.
You're most welcome, and yours is a very important bid, which is why we felt like we need to reflect as much as we can so that we continue these conversations and dialogues beyond the program that you had on the 28th. So it's lovely to have you on this morning.
It's my pleasure to be here.
All right. Clement is joined by Tumi Kutumela. Tumi, you were also central in terms of what we saw take place on the 28th of January, in terms of making sure that you facilitate and these conversations just really come under the spotlight. I know the issue of rape can never be an easy one for one to navigate. There's still some sort of shyness. There are those people that, associate this with just the stigma around taboo taboo. So as to that's why you find people often not, open and honest about their experiences where a rape is concerned. So you were tasked with this mammoth, a process of ensuring that people just engage where this rape education program is concerned. And it's lovely to also have you on the Power Zone this morning.
Thank you so much, Katlego. I'm very excited to be having this conversation with you this morning.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome to me. And at least we have a voice of a female. We have a voice of a male here, in terms of just making sure that representation is clear, and people don't blame us to say, how, Katlego, you just called a man and you guys were just talking, having a boys' party there, talking about rape. But it's so comforting and encouraging to see women also emerge and just form part, and they're central to some of these all important conversations.
Gender equality is a very big part of the rape culture. So this is truly a good thing that you've done here, making sure that you've got both represented.
Yeah, no, most definitely. Clement, we're seeing that indeed our country has been described as one of the worst in terms of this culture, and some of these stories go untold. Some of these, issues are swept under the carpet. We don't get to be frank and honest about where we find ourselves. Hence, you find even victims of rape are still shy to even go and open a case. We're talking about also the lack of sensitivity in terms of those that receive these people when they approach maybe an organization or a facility, law enforcement facility, to say that this is what I've experienced. But we're seeing you pushing something that is very important here, just dialogue centered around the issues of rape. How important is it that we really ventilate and we talk about these issues and never stop talking about them, because we are faced with this challenge of this just being a scourge?
Yeah, I think one of the things that leads or makes South Africa to be the rape capital, as you've mentioned earlier, is because of the issues that have to do with rape. So far, they are swept under the carpet. People are quiet about that, especially our government in particular. If we are declared or considered to be a rape capital as a country, the question will be, what is it that the government is doing about that? So if we are to start a movement or to spark a mind that will bring about a change, personally, so I believe that the point of departure should be conversations. So even the conversation that we had on the 28th of January, many people after the conversation that we had, they started to speak out. And we also have a legal practitioner who gave legal advice as far as what one need to do in order that they may report the issue of crime, the issue of rape, to say. So we need to start first with dialogues. So when dialogues are in place, that's when people are able to act in regard with the crime of rape.
Tumi, we know very well that this cuts across color, race, age, or even religion. We find people are being violated even when you're an old person or your child, an innocent child, not knowing what is happening around you, but you still see this violation happening. Often we don't talk much about the issues of rape and our experiences and the likes. How important is it that we break the silence? How important is it that we crush the stigma and then we afford people that safe space to ensure that even the perpetrators, when they are commissioning all of these activities, they know very well that the spotlight will fall squarely on them, because this is not something that is tolerated. Clement spoke about the issue of dialogue to say that we need, and we saw even after the 28th, people coming forward to say there is a need for ventilated voices around this issue. How important is it that people rise up, emerge, wherever you are, wherever you are, to speak and break the silence around the issues of the rape culture that exists?
I think the the first thing we need to always remember is that whenever you've covered up a wound, it really does not heal, and chances are it will even get infected. And that is what we've seen so far. Rape is one of those things that people have always shied upon because of the shame that is associated with it. For some people, it's I might even lose the bread that is on my table. Let me cover it up so that people don't know. And when that happens, we allow it to continue. When we don't put the spotlight on it, we make it okay for it to keep happening. But the second you put a spotlight on something, especially when it's something that should not be there, immediately everybody is required to remove it. When there's a smell in the house and we don't know where it is, we can't clean it up. But until we see it and until we know what's causing it, then we can not just clean it up but also get rid of it. And I think for me that's where it is with rape. For as long as we are quiet about it, for as long as we are quiet about the hurt, for as long as we are quiet about or the damage that it causes, and not just to the victim, but to everybody that gets involved, for as long as we keep that hidden, we are in essence making it okay for it to continue.
Just over time, do we then see people just maybe off later? We're talking about the Gen Zs now, this generation that is vocal more than ever. Do we see the picture change? Do we see a shift as time goes by compared to how it used to be in the past because of these riots and now people being woke as we hear that they are? Do we see at least that coming through handy to break this whole stigma around just not reporting or breaking the silence where rape is concerned?
Not quite, which is very scary. What we are seeing is people, when they do talk about it now, maybe what brings the spotlight is the fact that social media is being used more, right? Whereas back then, we wouldn't have the likes of Twitter and the likes of Instagram where people could be going live to go and speak about some of these things. I think that's probably what is bringing the shift, the social media element and how people are using it, but less of the woke generation. But the one thing that I do love about that generation is that once they've jumped onto something, they will really ride with it until something is made of it. So I'm hoping that at some point, very soon, we will start seeing more of them come up.
Was it like intention then, just Clement, to see people from various stakeholders come together so that they can also share their expertise in terms of what needs to happen here? We're hearing you talking about lawyers that were there at the event, just to give some sort of guidance in terms of how people can approach issues of legality and the law if they find themselves victimized. This whole integration of various people from various sectors to discuss this. So this is something that was intentional so that at the end of the day, you don't leave, the event, or you don't leave the dialogue or the program without, certain solutions as to what you've experienced.
Indeed, Katlego, it was intentional. We saw it as a necessity for us to have a holistic approach to leave no stone unturned. From my research and encounter, including conversations that I had with the victims of rape, I've realized that rape affects a total being of a person. It gets to the mind, it gets to the physical health of a person. So that's why we also had a clinical psychologist as one of our speakers to address rape victims as far as mental health is concerned. And then we also, one of our speakers that we had is a pastor. He helped in terms of spiritual healing, what one needs to do to be healed in their soul after they have been victimized. So it was a beautiful thing for us to have an event that had what I call a balanced perspective, because in most cases, whenever we address social ills such as rape, we don't have a balanced perspective. So for us to have a transformation or healing in totality, it is of importance for us to have different people who will come and contribute from different perspectives or areas of specialization. So indeed, it was intentional for us to do that.
Yeah, how do we find you here then, Clement? What really pushed you to start something like this? Was this experience, were you one person that was violated, or stories of people that were violated, or just over time, out of interest as a social activist, you picked up that there's a need and a gap here? This is something that needs to be ventilated as much as it can.
Personally, so I was not violated, but I have people who are close to me in my circle who were sexually violated, and from the stories that I've heard, there was no story that I had that left me untouched. So emotionally, whenever I heard those stories, I was deeply moved, I was deeply hurt. Especially by cases of those people whom were violated, and when they reported the crime, they didn't get justice in terms of whatever that was done to them. And then secondly, the reason why I said we really need to have rape education program. We need to educate our society as far as rape is concerned. We have majority of cases that I've heard is that many people were raped when they were young, and at the time when they were young, they didn't consider the act as rape. It was one of those things which were traumatic, and then the perpetrator, in most cases, they said, you don't have to tell anybody about this. If you tell them, you will either be laughed at. So they will use shame as one of the things to sweep the matter under the carpet. And in some cases, threat was used. And last year, as we were doing present talks, we went to juvenile. So juvenile is prison where young people who are under the age of 18 are imprisoned. Majority of cases there, we realized that many young people who were arrested there, they were arrested because of the crime of rape. And then most of them, when they did the act, and I'm not saying this to justify the act, but what I'm saying is when they did the act is they did it out of the lack of knowledge. For some reason, some people, they do rape other people thinking that whenever I force myself sexually on someone, it's a good act. They don't see it as crime. And then later on, you start to realize that what I've done, actually, it's a serious crime. So it's high time that as a society we started to educate our people about the issues of sex in particular. You need to be in a space where you get consent instead of forcing yourself upon a person. So speaking out, teaching our people about sex, it will really take us far as a society.
Yeah, Tumi, let me come to you. What are some of those issues or some of those stories that came out from this talk that we're hearing Clement here talking about how he was not, there was no way that he could have not been touched by one story to the next around some of these experiences that people have gone through. Maybe are you able to share with us what came out of this talk that maybe really pushed you to believe that indeed we need to continue talking, continue breaking the silence, and continue being there and supporting each other, because at some point you might not even be aware of what one is going through as we go on with our daily lives?
I think the trickiest part for the role that I was playing on that day was that I myself am a victim of gang rape. And I had to sit there and facilitate this conversation with the hopes of getting everybody in the crowd to understand some of the things beyond what is being said by the people who are sharing their stories. We had 3 stories in particular that came out that day, and they are also vast. The first one was of a lady who was raped when she was in matric, and she was just about to go to matric farewell, very excited about life and what is ahead of her. And then she was not only taken, but the person she was taken from was also very brutally hit on the day and landed in hospital for some time. So she not only went through the gang rape act, but she also had to deal with the fact that this guy that was taking me home is probably dead, from what she saw, a person being stabbed in front of her in order for her to be taken. The one that followed was a story of how we often think it will only happen out there, but this was a story of a lady who said, I got raped at the age of 11 when I was at home by my father. You know, when mom left for work, this was what I had to endure. Now, it shows you that it doesn't matter where you are going. It doesn't matter where what you are doing. It is there. You know, it is not an act that can be associated with a particular thing, you know. The one that stood out the most for me, though, was how when we talk about issues of rape and gender-based violence, we often shine the spotlight on women. And here we had a case where there was a gentleman who said, I was also raped, you know, and he told his ordeal about how brutal it was. He was on his way to a study group and all of this happened. So we're talking about children between the ages of 11 and 17. This is what we were seeing. Those are the stories we heard. And the one thing that was truly common in the stories was, first of all, the shame that has been stigmatized with rape. It was the fear, you know, the fear of abantu bazothini, you know, what will people say? And not only from the victim, but also from the people around the victims. It is a mother who says, don't say anything. You know, it is people trying to say, how dare you even want to speak about such things? So for me to have that kind of a conversation where we even had young children in the crowd, to be able to hear about these stories and what happens and what people need to go through, what the victims go through from the second the act happens. I know one of the speakers said, one moment everything is normal, and in a split second your entire life has been changed, and not for the better, but for the worst.
Yeah, no.
And it becomes jump in there.
Yeah, I wanted to, I'm sorry to jump in there. I wanted to understand then to say that we're talking about the issue of rape education, that, you know, we need to punt so that some of these stories, we create also safe healing spaces for people that have gone through the ordeal. I'm very sorry that you had to go through that, Tumi, and really there's your strength in having to facilitate that program as you navigate the space of healing as well is something that is commendable. How important is it that we really emphasize the issue of rape education in our schools, you know, in our churches, in whatever platform that we find ourselves in, even in the workspaces that we operate, so that people know very well that this is wrong, this is right. Consent is something that really should be championed, so that you don't find yourself in the wrong. How important is it that we really push and be intentional around issues of rape education, too?
We don't know what we don't know. And people will continue to act and people will continue to protect for as long as they think that it is not right. When people start to firstly understand what consent is, when people start understanding what rape is, it changes the behavior. When people understand that when certain things are done to you, it is not right, it starts to change the behavior. And when the behavior changes, then we not only will start seeing a decline I'd like to believe we'll start seeing a decline in the act, but we will also start seeing more people being vocal because they don't want to be the reason this continues. But the biggest thing for me is then you understand that it is not your fault. If it happens to you and you understand that you can still heal from it. If you understand the principle from the beginning all the way to the end, that once an act has been committed, you will go through trauma, you will go through all of these things, and you need to go for the healing in order for you to be okay. It's not something that you can now go and sit and say, oh, one day I will get over it. Once we start getting people to understand that there are channels, it makes it easier to also deal with. It makes it easier for it to get through it and to even support people who go through it. But also, it also just starts to bring rise to the, am I doing the right thing as a person, as a man, as a woman? Am I really protecting myself, my partner, and everybody else around me?
Yeah, no, we need to really be intentional. And just coming back to you, Clement, in parting, we've spoken about the issue or the challenges around law enforcement, that we see people still getting secondary victimization here. Do we see them as well afforded that platform to also allay their experiences with dealing with these cases? Would you say that maybe probably we need, more or less intentional training given to these people that are dealing with these cases, so that they don't become and push insensitivity in them trying to help, or their approach is not something that is frowned upon, looking at the fact that someone is coming here as a victim that is seeking for help here. As we push this program, do we see them engaged as well, so we understand why we find them just always being accused of secondary victimizations and of being insensitive around cases of rape when people approaches the police stations and the likes?
Thank you for that question, Katlego. I think there's a lot of negligence when it comes to SAPS. Like I said earlier, with one of the victims that we had on Saturday, when they reported their case, later on it was said that the docket got lost from the police station. And as we speak now, I think the case has been hanging for a period of 10 years. And so far, there's nothing that has been done with that. And recently, she just received a call from police station. They were saying to her they're about to close that case because the docket is no longer there. So for the victims now, when they look at SAPS setup, it does no longer reflect as a safe space for people to go at to can find help. And just to add to that as well, I think when it comes to the law of South Africa, people do as they please because of the law is not intensified. If you can look at countries like Afghanistan, Pakistan, and India, whenever somebody is found to have committed the crime of rape, the charges thereof are very harsh, and in such countries you will even go to an extent of being killed for committing the crime of rape. When you look at China, if somebody is found to have committed that crime, they get castrated. So I think as South Africa, we really, really need to look into law and make sure that we intensify law as far as the criminal, as far as the rape crime is concerned. We need to look into law.
You know, we need to make sure that everyone is brought towards this efforts of doing away with rape in its entirety, and if it means us tightening the law, then really at this point in time, that is something that will need to happen so that we deter people from even attempting to perpetuate such activities. I wanted to then find out from you, Clement, is this the end of it? Are you planning to have a series of these rape education programs rolled out then even to other communities as well? What are the plans around this process? Because it can't just be a once-off, and I'd like to believe that also on the 28th there you formed solid relations with some of these people that would like to continue with these talks and even taking it to other provinces as well.
But brother, I think moving forward, my greatest desire is to take these programs to family settings. The gathering that we had a program where we were gathered as people from different places in one place. So from my assessment, I've started to realize that if we do that and we don't take these programs to homes, we will not be able to get to the core of the matter. I was looking at the stats of reported rape cases. In 2016, in South Africa, 39,000 rape cases were reported. And then it is said that in 2020, 36,000 rape cases were reported. So if you can check the difference in between, it is only 4,000. So the numbers are more or less the same between 2016 and 2020. But now the alarming factor here is in 2020, if we can recall all of us, it was that year of lockdown. So if we have common or similar numbers of rape cases being reported during lockdown and when it was not lockdown, it means that the majority of rape cases they happen in family setups. Because of when you look at the stats between 2016 and 2020, that are more or less the same. So a lot of work needs to be done in our homes. So moving forward, we're going to make sure we develop a program that will be a door-to-door program where we'll be going to different homes and educate our people.
Yeah, and then how do people then follow the work that you do? Let's say I'm interested in just forming part as well of the next series of, the rollout of this rape education programs and these dialogues. How does one follow you, Clement?
Usually we market these things on social media platforms. So whenever we have a program, if you follow us on social media platforms, you will be updated in terms of the next program that we're gonna have. On Facebook and Instagram, my account is Clement TC Speaker. Clement TC Speaker on both Instagram and Facebook. And then our organization page on Facebook and Instagram is African Leadership Movement. So if you can follow us there, you will be updated in terms of the programs that we're gonna have. And for those whom would like to have an engagement with us in terms of inquiry or recommendations, or if you have people that will need help from us, you can contact us on our office number. It is 087 265 6001, 087 265 6001.
All right. Clement, thank you very much, man. Let me come to Tumi. Tumi, how do people get hold of you? Let's say someone wants to follow the work that you do, or just, wants to draw inspiration from the fact that here is one person that is just championing on, amid whatever they might have gone through. How do people get hold of you?
On social media platforms, my handles are Tumi Kutumela. That is on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. or they can also go onto my website, which is www.tumikutumela.co.za.
All right, Tumi, thank you very much for your time, love and light, and we wish you everything of the best. Please come back so that we can just draw some more out of you as much as we can in pushing to encourage our people to just be resolute around breaking the silence. But we appreciate your time, you coming through, and we wish you everything of the best.
Thank you so much, Katlego, and continue to do the great work that you're doing. I'm sure I'll be seeing and engaging with your listeners rather very soon.
All right, Tumi Kutumela there. Clement, brother, yours is a very important task, and we really respect the stance that you've taken, and we encourage people to follow the work that you do. Clement, TC, speaker, that is what you can actually just rally behind in terms of the social media spaces, but we wish you everything of the best as well. This it can't be an easy one, especially when you get to hear all of this conversations, all of these talks, all of these experiences being shared with you, and people just drawing from your wisdom as well, because you're the one that is leading and at the helm of all of this. But we wish you everything of the best, even where this year is concerned.
Thanks a lot, my brother, for having me.
Yeah, no, I will also invite you back so you can let us in on the leadership movement that you are pushing there, the African leadership movement, so that we can try and understand that space as well, and issues of transformation. There's a lot that we can discuss with you, because you're a speaker as well and you operate within the space. So please don't be shy when we reach out to you, so we can just draw from you some more.
Always available for our people.
Awesome. Clement Chauke coming through there as the president of the African Leadership Movement and a transformational speaker, as well as a social activist here to speak to us around the issues of rape education and the dialogue and the program that they had on the 28th, joined of course by Tumi Kutumela, www.tumikutumela.co.za. That's where you can find her, follow her as well on social media, so you can draw from her some more, but coming through as a transformation, a catalyst, and an author as well, someone that is a champion in our eyes. So thank you very much.
Cheers.
All right, Tumi and Clement. We are, of course, in the last stretch of the Power Zone. I told you guys that